I want to talk about the negatives later on. Let's talk about the positives. It appears that the air traffic is also expected to double. That is what Jyotiraditya Scindia is saying at the moment, to about 300 million passengers from currently about 150 million passengers at the moment. And this while aviation sector in India is cluttered, there are not enough pilots, there are not enough aircrafts.
Yeah, so I think, there's no surprise that more Indians want to fly, are taking on to flying and really using aviation as a tool or airlines as a platform to go from one point to another. Now, a lot of other data also justifies this rise in Indian air travelers. This comes by way of a rising middle class. There was a price report released last year. Recently, Goldman Sachs also released a report suggesting that India's affluent class is growing. Though, there is some quarrel with that definition of affluent class, because Goldman Sachs classifies affluent section of society as people who are earning more than 8 lakh rupees. And 8 lakh rupees today, given inflation, is not likely to buy you the same goods and services which it could buy you in 2015, because that was the base year against which this Goldman Sachs report really came out. So overall, if you keep that debate on affluency aside, the larger context is that we know for a fact that India's middle class is growing. There is more purchasing power. There is EPFO data that suggests that more and more Indians are getting employed in the formal sector, are getting enrolled as first jobbers in various sectors. Even though at the same time we are battling headwinds when it comes to IT and startups, which are losing people in hordes, not able to sustain high salaries. But overall, no surprise, given real estate, given SUV purchases, given air travel numbers coming in, that more and more Indians are willing to spend on flying. So this number doubling by 2030 is no surprise.
Quite in line with expectations, come to think of it, as far as India's doubling of the affluent class is also concerned. But I think what is also concerning right now, as you pointed out, that not just that affluency which is in question, which is debatable, because the parameters that it takes into account perhaps are not adjusted to inflation. That has been a factor in the past 5 years. But also a question of, can Indian Airlines or are Indian Airlines even prepared to take on that sort of number? Because in the last couple of days, and this is when I I think we should spend a minute talking about what has happened by the way of mismanagement, perhaps unpreparedness on parts of airline in the past couple of days, since winters started ticking in and north of India was in a very foggy weather condition, as a result of which lots of passengers were stranded in Delhi, parts of other airports in north of India. It appeared like Indian Airlines are not just prepared to deal with that onslaught of passengers yet.
Yeah, I know. I think, it should have served as a learning experience for all airlines operating in India, the period starting 25th of December when we saw fog really rolling in, up until even this morning when it was foggy, right? So I think every year, airlines and passengers both face this fog-like situation, and it is something that needs to be handled much better by way of experienced pilots, by way of runways being operational, by way of communication between airlines, the ground staff and passengers. So this is something that I think, this winter month every year almost rears its ugly head of us realizing that the airlines are not competent enough still and not experienced enough still to deal with these uncertainties which are induced by climate but mismanaged when it comes to ground reality. Now, specifically on preparing for the future, specifically on getting ready to accommodate more passengers and doubling of passengers up to 2030. In fact, the order book of all airlines out there suggests that airlines are definitely getting ready to accommodate this increase in passenger traffic. About 500 aircraft ordered by Indigo, about 470 aircraft ordered by Air India. Air India has started receiving deliveries starting 6th of December. Every week, one new aircraft gets inducted. In fact, just yesterday at the Wing Summit in Hyderabad, we saw the unveiling of the A350, and that was the first time that the A350 visuals, what the interiors of the aircraft look like, came into existence. That very aircraft is likely to fly into new destinations, including Ayodhya. So I think, with this overall order book of about 970 between these two largest carriers in the country, which is the Air India Vistara combined, as well as Indigo, plus the new announcements that came in yesterday by way of Akasa, saying that it's going to, it has placed an order of another 150 aircraft. It says that, with about 1,100 odd new aircraft likely to come into Indian aviation space in the next 3 years, 4 years or so, is likely to at least take care of some of the doubling of passengers by 2030.